on the meaning creating and expanding dialogue also from Norway. So I will start off just saying a little bit about, because there might be people who are in now that I've understood that actually don't know ICDP already. So just to put into context, but the presenters have been told that the main issues now is to talk about the meaning creating, which is just a part of the whole ICDP program. And very interesting part, I would say. So I will then share my screen. And start off with this beautiful picture series that I told the others that I had found by accident. You see one picture is the main picture that has been going on, that you see in the registration. But I actually by accident found the rest of the series, which is really a meaning creating and expanding dialogue series between a grandmother and her grandchild up in Dading in Nepal. And I think we could use a whole day. We like using pictures in ICDP, kind of talking about it. What do we feel? What do we think they're thinking about? And this series actually gives a lot of good thoughts and ideas of especially I like this number 3 in the top there, where you kind of see the really appreciation, following the child, you see, and then but also the grandmother is looking out and looking into what's happening in the community around. So more about that another time, maybe. That it seems as if it actually could be used by itself, but that's not for now. And just for those of you who don't know ICDP, the short version is that I usually say that let's see, just that ICDP is bringing out the natural ability to care. It's not telling people how they should be parent, but it will vary. We're also within a country, between you and your neighbor. We have different ways because we have our own family culture. So it's bringing out the parent that is in us, but then based on knowledge of learning more and discussing with others and reflecting with others and reflecting with our spouse or with our family. How do we want to be parent? And this is a story about Fulmaya in Nepal. And the thing that we kind of ICDP believes in is that this is natural. It's not something we need to be taught. So it's not an instructive program. And she, after the earthquake in Nepal, she understood when her grandchild was having problems in sleeping that she needed to gather the people, and what she did was to gather them, and they danced and they sung, and that is ABC in psychosocial support, first aid and psychosocial support, and it just came. It was not something she learned. It was just natural to her that's how we do it. So it's bringing out that natural ability to care, which I think is a crucial part of ICDP. Start with what they know is a quote from Karsten Huneide, who was the founder. And the objectives is to promote a positive perception of the child and to promote the caregiver's understanding of the sensitive interaction between caregiver and child, and to promote the caregiver's perception of themselves as competent and mastering. And I like that the picture is actually with grandparents. I seem to have most grandparents and less parents in these pictures. I will not go into the details of the characteristics, but just bring the attention to the ICDP house, and therefore also the meaning and oriented and expanding dialogue of ICDP, which will be the focus of attention today. And there are 8 themes of interaction. I'll not go into the details of it, but it's the 1 to show that you love your child, and then 2 and 3 and 4. And then it is the 3 that we will be looking at today is shared attention and shared experience. It is making experience meaningful and making connections. And then you have the roof with a regulating dialogue, which will not be going into details on today. So that is just to give you an overview of where in the picture we are. And what we like with ICDP is that it's when you build it as a house, when you come, a lot of people will come and parents will come, they say want to discipline their child. And they say, well, wait with that, it comes in the roof, but we can't start building the house without looking at the emotional dialogue at the first, and then the meaning creating dialogue, and then you come to the roof. This was a very, very short version of ICDP, but at least if there are some people who don't know, then at least it's been presented here. And with that, I want to give the floor first to Helen. Helen Christie is, she's a child. I think you can present yourself. I think that's the shortest and easiest versions, that all of you present yourself. It makes it much more accurate. But you are one of those who have been working, who are senior trainer or trainer of trainers in Norway. So please, the floor is yours. I will share your PowerPoint. You are muted, Helen.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm a child psychologist and family therapist, and I'm also been working with ICDP in about 15 years now, I think. I have been working with ICDP in South Africa, Nepal, China, and now for the time being in Tunisia. And I see I have some Tunisian friends here present already. My presentation is, if you go one further, is I wanted just to start with how ICDP in general, and also this meaning creating dialogue especially, fit into the advices from WHO and UNICEF, because I think it's also important to see the context that it has been developed into. And then very short say something about the aim and reason behind the three themes that is the meaning creating dialogue is about. And then I am very much concerned whether we have new challenges in our society now that really emphasizes the need of the meaning creating dialogue. So one more, please. Yeah, this is the house you have already shared. So I won't go into that again. So the next, please. So in WHO, they call it the nurturing, that what children need is the nurturing care. And it's nice to see how does ICDP fit into this concept of nurturing care, because it says children needs interaction that are responsive and emotionally supportive. That I think is what we in ICDP call the emotional dialogue, and that they need opportunities for play and exploring, which is the meaning oriented and expanding dialogue. And in the nurturing care concept, it is this early learning that is so. And I think that ICDP is different from many other parent guidance programs, because it also includes this meaning creating dialogue and emphasizes this early learning. So and the next, please. Yeah, I won't go into all of this, but I think still that the WHO says children need to be exposed to language, facilitation of word meaning by following the child's interest and talking about what has engaged the child's attention. That is the meaning creating dialogue, I think. Next, please. So if we go into what is the aim of the meaning-oriented and expanding dialogue, it's just exactly what the UNICEF emphasized, that children need support and cognitive support in enriching their experiencing by naming, by explaining. And it's both the inner and the external world that needs a naming and explaining. So next, please. Heidi, next, please. Yeah. So so I'll go into the reason behind the themes, the why. Next. So if we look at each of the themes, we look at the shared attention, the joint focus. That's how we do it, is both let me see what you, we are going into the child's focus where they have their interest, or we ask them to come here, I'll show you something. And that is the reason why, is because children are so easily distracted. So in order to learn, to make meaning of the world, they need to have a focus and to concentrate. And by shared focus, we assist the child in focusing and concentration. And the theme 6, that we make experiences meaningful, is that we put words into what they experience, what is happening just now. So this is to help them understand how things work, and it also give them motivation for learning, and they also can try to understand themselves. And then very many people struggle with the difference between theme 6 and theme 7. But when we make connections, that is not only what is present here and now, but also what is if in the future or in the past, or what is more generalized. I'll give you examples later. So we help them to take different perspectives, and that is the building stone of being able to abstract thinking. Yeah, one more. So I have been especially concerned about how do we practice meaning creating situations, meaning creating dialogue with young people. Because I think we get information from different sources. And do we still, as caregivers, are being relevant when it comes to understanding the world and understanding oneself? How do we assist them? And is there anything especially important? So one more, and I give you some examples. So how do we assist a child in understand the external world, and how is I'll give you one small example of my 3-year-old grandson, who, when the autumn came and the leaves started to become yellow and they fell down from the trees, he was amazed. And then we started talking about Why does this happen? Why is it becoming even darker in the afternoon? And what will happen when all the leaves have fallen down from the trees? And then we talked about the difference between autumn and when winter comes. And when is winter over? What will come next? And what is seasons? So that is how we went from the concrete, what's happening just in front of us, till what is to the more generalized feeling of seasons and remembering what we did in summertime and etc. But we also can use to explain the inner world, and also to be able to understand both themselves and others. I remember my other grandson, who's a bit older, said, I suddenly heard him saying to his father in an angry voice, "So then you're not my father anymore." And then I heard my son-in-law saying, "Oh, now I understand. You were so disappointed because I had promised to take you to the swimming hole, and now I'm telling you that we can't do it anyway. Oh, I understand." And then he helped the child to connect, to understand that his anger was also a disappointment, and that he was somehow hurt. So I think that is a way of understanding, helping them to understand the inner world as well as the outer world. The next, please. So that is easy to explain perhaps when it comes to small children, but when we come to the adolescents, I think we have also to consider what do they need assistance in. They need to learn more complicated tasks, to be able to create problem solving, and to understand the context and the world they live in. But they also need to be able to think abstractly and to be tolerant that we have different opinions in our society. And I think one father in one of the group that I was leading was a very good example. He said, "My daughter came home and said that she was being teased because she had darker skin." And then he took her and then he explained her what racism is about. And then, but he took it even further and said, "You see that racism is just one example of how people are being discriminated, because sometimes we are teased because we have different color of our skin. Sometimes we are teased because, or bullied because you have the wrong sex, or you use glasses or whatever." So discrimination is a higher form of, it's a more abstract concept. And then I think also we need to be able to think that we should also explain for young people the inner world, because they need to see the connection between what emotions they have and what was triggering them, and to see that emotions passes. So one of my example is in the asylum center where I worked, it was a young girl who was very much withdrawn and anxious, and the teacher working there said, "I know that her mother died when she was 10. I wonder whether I could use the meaning-creating dialogue in order for her to understand what happens because my mother also died when I was about 10 years, and I can explain to her what is ordinary reactions when you are left alone without a mother. And so she started talking to the girl using the meaning creating dialogue in order to generalize these feelings that she supposed the girl had, and help the daughter to help the young girl to understand more her own perspective. And then one more, please. So my challenge for the time being is that I'm concerned whether we as caregivers are not able to be relevant to as so this it's a new concept called epistemic trust, and it comes from epistemology, which means how we in general establish and gain knowledge and insight and cognition, both about ourselves and about others and about the world. That is, for me, the same as a meaning creating dialogue. And but we don't learn from everybody. We don't take information from everybody. We have to have some trust. And we have to think that those who give us the information, they have some experience and knowledge that we consider relevant and usable. And I think sometimes we can have a challenge when it comes to young people, because they get information from quite different sources than we do. We read newspapers and watch the news. They read social media, and they think that their friends, their peers, are more relevant for information. So the last one, please. So I think that we have to see the challenge, that we have to think, do we have joint and shared attention with the young people? Do we have some common ground where we get the information from? Or should we actually try to find out more about from where do they get their information? And do we have explanations that they consider relevant? And how do we help them also to understand their inner world? How does it feel to be rejected from someone you are in love with? How does it feel to fail at an exam? Or how do we help them to also understand and give explanation to their inner world? And how do we make the connection between what in general triggers our emotions like this, and what kind of sources of information are relevant and are to be trusted? So that, I think, is the challenge in our society, at least nowadays, when it comes to not abdicate as parents or as caregivers. The last one, please. So we need to stay as relevant sources of information and opinion formation and not abdicate, but we also need to respect that the young people have different opinions than we have, that they become independent but still are respectful to diversity and tolerant to others. So that was my perspective for our challenges nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Please do write down if you have questions or comments to each of the presenters. I think we'll give all of them the floor together, and then we come to the talk afterwards. But I do see that, and what I really like, Helen, is your ability to always think about what's the new challenges. How is ICDP relevant for today, just now? And the issue, I think, for many of those of you coming after you will be talking more about the younger child. But this is a challenge we have in Norway now, where we're kind of looking at how do we use ICDP towards youth. So there is a program coming up there. A bit discussion around that program, as some of you might know. But this, I think, is an important part, that the meaning creating dialogue is really important also with adolescents. So thank you so much. And I love these strange words. And I think when we're in a Norwegian context, but I think for the world, well, finding those strange words, well, go into them and look at them, but they are not the core. The core is, of course, these easy described 8 themes of interaction. So then, Pitamber, are you with us?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Then you're up next. And I was thinking about, because one of the things that I've learned from Helen is that or I've felt is that I like this kind of the inner world. So I will tend to look at the inner world. But I think as a pedagogue, you will have a wider, when we talk with kids, we're talking with this is a pen and this is a plant. This is what plants do, and as Helen was saying. So the pedagogic, I think that's the meaning creating. We need more of the pedagogues in to also understand that. And you are, so please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi. It was very nice opportunity to be here today.
I can't see you, but that's because there, right, thanks.
Yes. Yeah, and so I'll talk a little bit briefly about how we do meaning creating dialogue here in Nepal. So I am the ICDP trainer in Nepal, but I also work in education, improving school and children's education. So we have an organization called ECEC, Innovation in Education. This is where I have been working for the last 15 years. In ICDP, I'm working for the last 10 years. So Helen is my teacher. So I really admire how she has presented, and it's really true. But I go a little bit more in the practical side of that. So meaning creation dialogue for children. So one of the very important aspect for young children is the world is very, very complex. And as they are growing, it's very difficult to understand. There are so many things, so many layers. And for that curious child, it's very difficult to figure out everything, what, where, when, how, and why. And I think that is where this meaning creation dialogue comes in. And how to understand this complex world through that young children's eye. And one of the very important word we use in ICDP is mediation. So the role of a parent or caregiver or teacher in the process of meaning creation is mainly helping the child to understand the world and mediating between the child's curiosity and the world phenomena. And within the world, of course, there are human phenomena, cultural phenomena, natural phenomena, material and their properties phenomena. And all these phenomena are very new for this young child. And so the meaning creation happens through the mediation between the child and that complex world. And I think that is one of the very important aspects. That is how we bring to our participant. And one of the things I was talking to my son, I think 3 years ago, he was sick. And then at that time, there is this coronavirus going on. And he had heard, he was 5-year old, and he had heard that this, when you have a fever, you have a corona, you may die. That is what he had heard. And then he said, Daddy, am I going to die? And I said, no, you are not going to die. Yeah, but I heard that person died because of that. And then we had a lot of talk about, what is worse, what can go wrong, how do we prevent from that wrong, and so why he may die, why he may not die. So a lot of those dialogue happen, but they are very, very deep and meaningful dialogue, and also about culture, religion, nature. So a lot of those questions are like what Helen explained a while ago, like those type of dialogue, they really happen. But those things happen through the medium of communication, explanation, or in a lot of time in our part of the world in storytelling form. And these are always happen when the parent and child are playing together, experiencing something together, or they are together. And so the settings always are togetherness. So this communication, explanation brings togetherness, but playing, doing, experiencing also brings the communication. So they are kind of how do you say, like activating one another in that sense. And how do we bring that in the facilitator level? I think that is a very important aspect. Mm-hmm. And in this part of the world, one of the very important aspects we use is role playing. Mm-hmm. Role playing has been one of the very, very effective tools. And when we do role playing, suddenly they realize, oh, actually, this can be done in a lot of different way, in much easier way. So then we use this role play as a very effective tool to present the meaning creation dialogue in facilitator level. So one of the very common role play we do is this one. When I do, I mean, we have different pedagogical trainer and they use their own different one, but this one I use a lot. So there is this child and we role play. He has a friend and the friend has fractured his hand. Now he cannot play with the friend. So he's very, very sad, but also not happy because like, yeah, I want to play, but I cannot play because his hand. And then so at that time, the mother explains, what does a fractured hand mean? What happens where? And so we use this X-ray picture and then the explanation of what happens and how long does it take to, how do you say, recover, and when your friend can play. So the disappointment, that the child is disappointed, but there is also the fact that he want to know, the curiosity. So this is the role play that we use. So there is this disappointment and there is also this curiosity of like what happens, what does the fractured hand mean? And so we use this one. And the other role play we also use is a father telling a story to the son, and there is a story about a fish. And so they talk about, fish, different type of fish, and what do they eat, where do they sleep, do they have to sleep? So there are a lot of curiosity about that fish. And so we also use these scenes. So this is what I wanted to say from our side, like how as a parent or caregiver, we can mediate the child. But then these things can be played out through role play, which is much easier in like common language. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pitamber. You didn't say a lot about it, but you do have a degree in terms of the whole thing of pedagogue, and you are the leader of ECC in Nepal, and it's very interesting to see kind of how the need, what you've been working a lot with, the need of using those kind of methods when also with teachers. So that's one of your main teaching, or that the teachers actually use the meaning creating dialogue. It's not in order to get the children to learn better than this rote learning, which is the traditional way in Nepal. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's where the practical part of it is, it's so crucially important, and we do it in different ways. So therefore it's cool to listen to different perspectives here. So then we'll go over to Ukraine to Maria Bingol. She is She lives actually in Turkey and actually would have done that in any case, but has her background from Ukraine. So are you with us, Maria?
Yes, yes. I'm with you and
Thank
with my baby, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes,
Maria
yes. You're a
Bingöl.
mother of five? No, four, five?
4 kids, yes.
Four. One tiny little child as well. Yeah.
Just 4
So
months,
fantastic.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm
So
Maria Bingöl. I'm
please
pedagogical.
present yourself and
Yes.
yeah.
I'm Maria Bingöl. I'm a pedagogue, nearly 20 years, and I'm psychotherapist, nearly 10 years. I'm from Ukraine. Now, nearly 4 years, I'm living in Turkey. May I share my screen? I will try. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Oh
Thank
no, we're
you.
seeing, yeah, no, yes, we are. Perfect. Yeah.
So starting from beginning, you see good, yes.
Excuse me, maybe you could put it down horizontally and we will see it bigger.
Like this? It will be better.
Yes, yes, that's better.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good. Thank you. So thank you, Heidi, to invite me here. It is important for me. It is one of my idea also to create such network in Ukraine and all the world, to be in connection with each of trainer, facilitator. And I will start with ICDP in Ukraine during war. It is very important for us to have this program during this time, because I will be a little bit emotional because not easy. I was in Ukraine also when war started. At that moment, I visited my mom with kids, and we escaped at the second day. But working in Turkey with Ukrainian kids and my colleagues, my team of facilitators working with kids and parents in Ukraine, and our experience about this, to be positive, to be emotional, to be open, to be trustful, to be safe for kids, it is the most important. And ICDP can give this in 3 dialogues, in topics of ICDP. Step by step, we are creating back what was destroyed by war and by trauma of war. I will not tell so much, but I can just add that if you see some photos, it is about identity for kids who is abroad, not in country. It is for closest to parents, mom. They are always creating something for moms. When we were writing fairy tales, it was for parents, also for mom, to be close, to be in safe. It is for gatherness, to feel each other in these times. And it is about that love can have different ways to give love. We have different ways. And ICDP helping very much in this topic nowadays. I will share next screen and explain what we done. Until now, I'm a facilitator trainer since 2017, so nearly 6 years I'm working with ICDP, and we created very many different events, activities. What I want to present a little bit as a structure for ICDP, to have network, to have connections, and to have good relationship. So we tried and we presented ICDP in many different areas, like pedagogical institute, college, different centers for people with disabilities. In schools, we educated teachers, students, and I want to answer about youngs. They have very good information, to get information, but in practice, what I get in my experience in practice, ICDP helping to come to real emotions, not to read how to get these emotions, how to feel this emotion. In practice with ICDP, they are really learning. To get information to read, it is very easy nowadays. I had a group in pedagogical college. I will a little bit explain what I mean. And they had, we had a game. One of students has to collect other students who were like kids. We played this game. She was caregiver and other students were kids. And I said, okay, tell them to go, for example, to eat. And she turned to me and said, now I will tell them to go to eat. No, I said, tell to kids to go to eat. This episode finished with her crying. She couldn't do this. She was trying to explain me like in books, like a teacher, like, but not to practice how to do this. Of course, those students played a little bit more excited. She said, it is not possible to do this. It is first what I want to explain about youngs, and second, they were at that moment the students were on practice at the kindergarten, children garden, and they saw very solid, very not good connection to kids. And when we learned ICDP on our lessons, on our meetings, they were crying too because they felt very big unfair to kids from elder generation. They have no emotions, they have no love to kids, they have only some structure what they have to do to care them. So, and step by step, we come to different areas. Also, Theology Institute, students who Catholic catechese, they went to kids also to play. They also get this education. So we were trying to show ICDP to different areas and how it works. It really works in with different topics. Second, what we were done during all this time, we presented ICDP in different conferences in Ukraine and other countries, Italy, Turkey, Bulgaria, to have more connections, to give opportunity to see ICDP to, as a therapist, as being a therapist, I'm showing that sometimes we don't need therapy, sometimes we need facilitating. It is good work to be accepted, to be, for example, not in Ukraine, there is some, they don't like psychologists, they don't like therapists, and facilitating is a very good step to learn yourself, to learn to learn yourself with emotions. ICDP working like this. And at the last conference in Turkey, one of participants said, "Oh, young woman, they have no kids. This husband, he is very famous also therapist in America, and she said, I would like he come here because he afraid and to know this program to." I want he learns this program to take this fear from him out. What is this? One more, what we are doing with ICDP, it is we are connecting. We have different, in Facebook, we have group, Vinnytsia region, it is my city where I am living in Ukraine. I'm sharing different topics of ICDP and different topics of dialogues, not only for facilitators, for people who is interested in parenting, in caregivers and teaching kids. One more, I'm telling you this, but when I preparing, it was very wonderful time for me. With all these people, and one more, not one more, but some more activities we were done. It is festivals for parents. It was marathon for parents online when isolation started, and Mariana supported us to have this marathon for parents with ICDP, how to care kids during isolation. So we are connecting in different ways, starting from facilitators, other organizations, and parents and kids. And what for me is important to be as a trainer in ICDP, it's resource, stable, regular connections activities. For example, for trainers, it is like interventions or sharing of experience group, seminars, conferences. For facilitators, it is supervisions to be with trainer to feel support, groups, also seminars. For caregivers, family festivals, family meetings, camps. In Turkey, I learned that it is forbidden to get kids to camp without parents. They don't give. Like in Ukraine, for example, they can go for 1 week for caregiver, with caregiver only, team of kids. In Turkey, it is forbidden. There is family camps, 3-4 days, they are together. A wonderful idea for me too. And all the steps, one by one, coming to children with love and with emotions to really to understand what is happening with child. And with Sylvia Brabin from Romania nowadays, we created such ICDP individuality, collaboration, dynamic and positive parenting, ICDP. What means to be sensitive to each kid, to as individual, to each facilitator, to each parent, to each facilitator, and to each trainer, as we are. In my practice during I was teacher, the most important what I get from kids, they want to feel love and trust when they're educated, and they fight it with teachers at school. Do not be, how to say, a mess. I mean, just a group. They want to feel that they're special. And what I am bringing with ICDP and ICDP teaching us, me, and I am giving this to facilitators and caregivers to come to this individuality, to believe in kids. So thank you so much. It is my presentation for today. I have a lot of experience, but maybe I would like to share next time more.
Thank you so much, Maria. You have a huge heart for the whole area of networking, and I hope that we can come to that we can develop, that this is just a very small start of something bigger, that we can work together with ICDP International to make a network platform. That's a dream I think we share, several of us. But also, Maria, with big heart for what your country is going through, and that is, I think we share it all. And sitting outside and knowing that your parents are there is a huge challenge. So we have been trying to, just for everyone's sake, we've been trying to find funding for work in Ukraine on ICDP, and it's of different reasons challenging. We have a little hope coming up, so let's see what happens. As Norwegian government now has more funding in that direction, but they work only through the big organizations, not through small. So we have to find our way through the bigger organizations if this is going to happen. And I also just want to say, for those of you who are Norwegians, and because we have a lot of refugees in Norway, so for many people it means listening to you. Ah, there she is. Hi. That the listening to you also gives perspectives on, because you've met people from Ukraine in Norway. But I also just want to remind you that there are 2 webinars or 2 on the ICDP Norway website. They're a bit difficult to find. I will actually go in and try to make them easier to find. But if you go into the YouTube and look for ICDP Norway, you'll find them. And the one is on actually the work in Ukraine. That was before the war started. It was Marianne Abdallah Flescherer, who I think is with us, that made a presentation and told about the work. And that can be seen there. It's actually very interesting and a good background of understanding. And also nice to know that there is work of ICP, the way that Maria is describing. And also the other one is Helen Christie had a Foreldre på flukt, parents on the move, on the trauma part, which I know is something Maria also can, and others in Ukraine can be telling more about. So we'll come back to that in a session later, because that is how is ICDP a it's a universal program, but how do you use it when you're in a context where there is a lot of trauma? And that's adaptable. It can be used, and it's been, of course, that's been the background for ICDP Ukraine since it started in 2014 with the occupation that time and in those areas as well. That was just a little bit of background on that. Then we're moving to I have my very heart in Asia and in Nepal and things. I've been working there for the past 15 years or so, but before that I was in Lesotho, and Lesotho is culturally very close to Botswana, and I have very, very, very good friends who are from Botswana. So it's a pleasure to welcome you, Tsepiso, and looking forward to hearing your presentation as well. Please present yourself and do use a little time just to tell us about the work. You've quite recently started, or a couple of 3 years, so but just tell us a little bit about it. You're muted. And tell me when you want me to open the presentation.
I forgot. Thank you so much, Heidi, and it's such a beautiful pleasure to be part of this, meeting today. Just to let you know, my name is Tsepiso. Tsepiso, it means promise in English. So Kopo, that's my name. I work for Icdp Trust, and I'm a social worker by profession. I've been working with Icdp, I think for more than 15 years now, and we do psychosocial programs for the young people, the adolescents. So we came about ICDP after we had been engaged by the local government to try to assist the young people that were in a village called Tamaha, who were notorious in behavior, and it was really hard for people or the community in the village of Tamaha to just be free and feel safe in the community. So that is how we ended up, getting ICDP, because after we gave them therapy, we felt the urge to expand in terms of giving more therapy, but then targeting the parents, because from the therapy, what we got, or when we evaluated, was the young people were actually complaining. They were concerned about the lack of relationships, positive relationships between themselves and their parents. And that is what was driving them into, being notorious, into, drug use, into being on the streets and absconding from school and being truant like that. So it has been really great, doing ICDP in Botswana. We have had such a beautiful support from our government of Botswana, because since 2017, when we started ICDP, we were trained by Patrick and Chiku. They've been such great support to us. And since training in 2017, the government has been of such great support to us. And, they expanded from Tamaha to cover 3 more villages in the south of Botswana. And last year in 2023, that was when one of the councils, because we work much with municipalities, that's what you call them, we call them councils here. We had the first council sponsoring themselves for ICDP. So it was a very huge move for us, and we still see the interest amongst the different districts to implement ICDP. Unfortunately, it has not been funded because of the issues with COVID and having to, take the money elsewhere for other things. But our hope and our consolation is in the interest that we are having by the councils to actually sponsor themselves for this program, for the ICDP program. Yeah. So this is who I am, and yes, you have my presentation. Yes. So Ingun can share.
Just continue to talk. It's a bit.
Oh, okay, all right.
My thing is a little slow. There, I found it. Sorry.
Okay. So I just did a real brief summary, but I will try to expand as I present. Like you said, Botswana is close to Lesotho. Botswana is close to Lesotho. Maybe you can go to the next one. Next, yes. So this is just the conclusion of my whole the summary of my whole presentation. I just want to have you appreciate that when we talk about this creative meaning dialogue, we are talking about children, and children, we know they have a lot that they experience from when they are born, when they're growing up, to when they are now adults. Even now, we still experience new things. And as a child, I always like the example to say their minds are like sponges where they get a whole lot of things when they're exposed to a lot of experiences. So we want to appreciate that our culture has played a huge role in how our children can have meaning to their experiences, how they can have meaning to new information around them. So we realized that in Botswana, back then we used to have this culture of silence. Our culture has been very silent about a whole lot of things, and there is less interaction between parents and children. And this on its own, it has created this gap in terms of how parents and children can communicate what they feel, what they think, and what they're experiencing. So when we bring this issue to say, we are bringing a program that would love you to, explain things to your child, to create meaning to your children, it comes like a taboo for a whole lot of people. And it comes like a strange thing because that is the only thing that they knew. But then again, we want to appreciate that we are living in an era where there's so much exposure to information. There's social media, there's television and all that. So children are having a lot of experiences. So back then we used to have all these responsibilities lying with the schools to say, it is the school that is responsible to explaining things to the children, not the parents. So the parents will just come and, when the children are bringing topics from school to try to get more information from the parent, to be like, no, you can ask the teacher. And what we have seen helping a lot, I love the comprehensive training that ICDP gives to ready you to go and implement, in that, when the facilitators themselves, when they share their own stories of how this has really affected them or how it has been positive to them to share, and to when they're sharing about how they've been able to create this meaning and expanding to their children, it now tends to give the parents an opportunity to actually appreciate that this is something that they could try. An example would be, I remember there was a case of a lady who, when she was still young, I always love this story because it grows, or it shows how much explanations can really do and how much they can contribute to the growth of individuals. This lady, when she was young, she was forced into a marriage and nothing was explained to her. And then she was still at grade 7. I don't know what you call, but we call it standard 7, the side when she's about 14, 15, round about there. She really wanted to go to school, but she was forced to marry because it's like this marriage was the passport for the family of their poverty. So this child was married, was forced into marriage. She grew up with this anger, and then she had children of her own. And then she also passed on to her children. She didn't want her child to choose. She didn't even explain what had happened to her. She didn't explain her experience to this child. So the child had a boyfriend with whom they had a child together. And then the mother, because she was also having her own issues, she ensured that her daughter's relationship with the boyfriend had to end. And then this boyfriend ended up going to find another person and married that person. So through ICDP, as much as it was challenging, this parent came to appreciate the need to have explained to the child what she went through, the experience that the child was going through, to say, I have found my own person and that I would love to marry, what it means, the experience that they are having. And then through ICDP, they were able to reconcile. So you could really appreciate when this parent is sharing their own stories, to say they are giving the other parents an opportunity to actually share, to actually appreciate. And then the other thing that we do that we appreciate so much is the use of when we give our parents homework. Because I said much of the time our culture was a bit silent in terms of our relation, how we should relate with our children. Children were not in a position to express themselves, to communicate freely with the parents. So through the homework, that is where we actually see the parents going to implement, try what they have learned. As much as it will be challenging at first, when they come to bring their feedback, they'll actually tell you that, you know what, I thought this was challenging, but I see the importance of doing this. A typical example would be, like, I remember one case of a parent who was sharing how their child wanted to be an athlete. You know, in Botswana, it was still that when children are growing up, they have to be what their parents want them to be. So if a child wants to be an athlete, it was deemed, or it's actually deemed like it's not the very best career. But we are starting to have that mind change, that mind shift, because this child was like, I wanted to be an athlete, but the mother was like, no, I want you to be a doctor. But the child was not actually gifted academically. So the child was focusing in their own world of wanting to be an athlete, but then the parent was also into something else. So this is what we see. So the use of when we give them homework, and then we also use role plays in our discussions to give them an appreciation of how it would look like. Because when a person is not used to engaging or conversing with their child, it comes like a big thing. It's an alien to them. It's something alien to them. So when we give them an opportunity to role play, when they're still in the discussion amongst themselves as parents, it gives them an idea of how it would look like when they actually get home. So this is one thing that we really appreciate about that. And then sometimes we use the facilitators would use videos that also show videos of how the interaction has been, and then it can help with parents to engage in this particular video. So that on its own, it has really helped a lot. It makes the explanation to the parents a bit easier for them to appreciate how it will be and what is the most important thing that they need to do when they explain to children. Because from what my experience has been, it has always been that children should not question when decisions are made by the parents, because they're children, they're young, so the parents know best. So the children are only given and they have to take. But now those that have engaged in the ICDP, they now appreciate that relationship is about giving and taking, and sitting down and explaining things and appreciating that children are also in a position to contribute to their lives and to the lives of their parents as well. Like maybe in some cases, things that can be hard to explain that were hard by some parents in the ICDP program, where like things like death in the family. Traditionally, you wouldn't actually explain to your child that your mom has died, or, you know, this is what is going to be happening at home. It comes with lying to your child to say your mom has been taken by something, maybe a hyena or a bird, because the mother would just disappear, and then they try to hide that the mother has died and is now in the mortuary or in the morgue. And then that will be a contrast, because now people are coming at home, they're gathering at home for the prayers, and then on the actual day of the funeral, the mother reappears, and now she's in a box, and no explanation has been done. So this on its own has been one of the things that has been challenging. So now parents that have been in the ICDP, they now understand why it is important to explain things to children. Even parents who have children whose parents are absent, whose fathers are no longer together with the mothers. So sometimes out of anger, they don't explain to the children why they no longer see the father, or why the father has divorced. So this is these are things that when they have now explained to the children, it brings a lot of relief to the parents. So we actually appreciate ICDP because it has helped a lot. The last example that I can just share is this lady. She had a child. It's a friend of mine. So the child comes, and then she was like, "Mom, today we learned, auntie, we learned about condoms today at school." And then this lady was like, no, I just want to change the topic altogether. I don't want to start explaining things to this child. So I was telling her that, you know, this is an opportunity for you to share and explain to the child, because they trust you. The reason that they come to you is because they trust you. So you are that safe environment. So I helped this child, and then she was asking me, and I was just explaining to her, because she's in grade 5. So they're learning that at school. So I was telling her that now you need to appreciate that this child, what they need is the validation of what they are learning from school. So you are the safe person that they can actually rely on, and you need to actually confirm for them what they have actually learned. Then you can expand, not only to just rely on the teachers. So this is how we've been doing ICDP. At first, of course, it is not so easy to explain to children, but with more practice, of which I really appreciate the homeworks, like I said, they give an opportunity for parents to actually practice and see the need. So that is why you actually see a change in the relationships between parents and children of everyone who has been in the ICDP program. But again, there's this one case again that I just remembered, where sometimes it can be very challenging, especially when it comes to issues of health. Like an example of a parent who had HIV. Like she has 4 children, and 3 of her children were born HIV negative, and only 1 child was born HIV positive. So when we talked about issues of, you know, explaining to the child so that they can understand, because this child was actually asking, why is it that my siblings, they go to the hospital, and then when they come back, they take their medication, and then after some time they are okay, then they no longer take medication. What about me? Why should I always have to take medication even if I'm feeling okay? So it was challenging for this parent to explain this whole thing to the child, despite the other parents in the group trying to help her to appreciate. So the facilitator ended up, referring the case to the social welfare officers, the social workers, to help intervene some more, so that the parent and the child can have a positive relationship. I think this is how I can go.
Oh, really so interesting. Thank you. There's a little strange. Do you see double with my screen, or is it just me? No, it's okay. Yeah, and it's just me.
It's okay.
It's having worked in those areas, I get a lot of ideas and thoughts, but I'm not now going to leave my my questions to. I just want to say one thing. My name is actually Maleratu. I'm the mother of love.
Oh,
yes, I was
mother
given a
of
name.
love,
I
yeah.
remembered when you started talking. So please do just take the word, because I'm having a little problems with the screen. So I'll look at that. But if anyone has questions to anyone now, as you're hearing, we got a different perspectives, and I think this is by itself interesting, and that was the intention of this session, to listen into those different perspectives. And culturally, I think for another time that we will give more time to one, so that we can actually ask proper questions to that one to learn even more of each of the settings. That would be a cool possibility for the future. But now, just what comes to mind. We don't have that much time, but please, if there are any questions or comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just take the word. Yeah, please, Patrick.
Yeah, many thanks for great presentations. Of course, Shepia, it's lovely to hear from Botswana, where we've worked a lot together. I just wanted to comment on what you said, Pitamba, because you come from a pedagogic background, and that awoke in me, reminded me that my background before I became a psychologist was as a teacher and special educationalist. And we had some very interesting experiences in London way back in the 80s, where we found that children were learning through being teachers. And we're using that knowledge a lot more now in schools. But just to remember that when we're meeting children, talking to children, helping them to expand their understanding, we can also ask them to be our teachers. And this is wonderful news for baffled parents with so much information out there, where children know much more than us about computers and mobile phones. But they can teach us, and by just being with them and showing enthusiasm and interest, they learn, they consolidate their learning. So there's been some research that's shown that if just an adult is near a child when they do their homework, the quality of the homework goes up without even the parent saying anything or interacting particularly. So there's some wonderful tacit things going on between parents and children. And it's good news for parents, especially when the child has learned much more mathematics or whatever than the parent ever is going to learn. So I just thought I'd share that, and I use that in our teaching about the meaning dialogue, because that becomes the basis for helping to have good regulation and good dialogue about the child learning self-regulation. So all these things are very interrelated. I mean, many thanks for great presentations.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? While you think, I think when it comes to the example now has kind of left me, Tsepiso, but the issue of kind of the lack of where we rely on the teacher. Yes, it was a condom example, where we rely on the teacher, that we have structured, I think in terms of development work, we've structured the work so that we rely on the teacher to do that information. And very interestingly, Helen was saying that we as a child, we want to get the information from someone we trust. And the question is, it is the parents that is closest to our hearts. So as you were saying, very interestingly, you were using her theories in your example, that you were saying to that parent that you need to confirm what came from the teacher, so that you make it your information on your terms, on your ways, to the child. Very, very interesting combination of the two of you. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to ask a question in Norwegian, I can translate. So please just be.
I was thinking. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Maria first, and then Ingunn. Sorry, Ingunn.
Yes, I want just two sentences to tell. First, as a psychotherapist, I want to share on my groups of facilitator. One of participant asked, "But you are a psychologist. You see us more than a facilitator. How it is?" I mean, they are futures also pedagogue, but Catholic pedagogue in churches, and it was a very interesting experience to feel that ICDP can do very deep work to learn emotions. And this group, here was 32 groups, but totally 30 participants. And when they had open group with parents, when they were educated, they were telling, okay, good, love, very easy, very simple to follow. But when they come to practice again, I will tell, they were shocked how really it works. They come to last module to give a report. They were with awaken. Wow, it was wow for them, because they were simple teacher or simple, workers. They were not psychologists, they were not fully pedagogical, but they were very surprised that ICDP can do for them this work. They can feel, they can support, they can help. And nowadays in Ukraine, what I want to share, because there are some question. I have my own center in Ukraine, in my city, for kids, and the first problem or topic what we discussed and worked with ICDP, it is how to back emotions. It is very deep, we stuck in emotions. They are all inside. We cannot explain. It is very painful. Even now, today, I didn't share so much because it is really very painful to talk more. Because when I come to Turkey, I worked with kids from Kharkiv who, on their eyes, their houses fell down on their eyes, and they shared with it. So it's like you have to come back again to build their safe place, to build their trust to adults, to build their trust to this world. And with ICDP also and other skills, with art therapy, with speaking, with listening, it is really helping to come back to dreams. But these kids are out of the war. It is two different topics, who is out and who is in. I will finish for this, and if there is other opportunity to share, I will share how it is more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. I think yes, this is a huge topic, and the question is, we have been discussing that in Ukraine. Is ICDP the right answer to those challenges? And maybe it's a combination of things with other things as well, 100%. Rather than just yeah. So this is a theme which it relates to a lot of places in the world. So yeah. And of course, this is hugely of interest for those of you who in Norway, because this, I think, also a lot of you will relate to what Maria just said now, because they're also here, the same mothers and children. Yeah, Ingunn. I just have to say it was my intention to begin with, but all honor to Ingunn. Ingunn is the one that's been organizing this, and she's our wonderful facilitator of webinars. So you're a psychologist and using your time voluntarily for this. So there's a heart a lot of places in the world for ICDP. So, but the floor is yours, Ingunn.
Yeah, thank you. It's so nice to hear talks from different parts of the world. It's like you get so many associations in the mind. And one of the things that I was thinking about when all of you were talking is the perspective that it seems like in many cultures you don't talk about difficult emotions or difficult topics. Especially you were telling about Japiso, about the mother who died, and then the parents or the grown-ups didn't explain what has happened. And I was wondering, when parents or caregivers learn about ICDP and this meaning creating dialogue, what experience do you have in the process of finding their words to explain things that has been muted in the society for a very long time? Yeah, it's for all of you, I guess.
Interesting. Tshepiso, you had your hand up.
I had pressed that by mistake, but yes, I can just contribute. I think, you know, it is not easy for parents to actually come to terms with the damage that they would have made or that they would have caused on their children when they were growing up. This is when, you know, I remember when we were training, like all the time when we are training our facilitators, they have an opportunity to share. So when we are talking about the creating meaning dialogue, you realize that most of the parents that come into the program, they're emotionally wounded, they're psychologically wounded, and that's the only thing that they know best. So they're going to forward it or pass it on or transfer it to their children as well. So now, during the meetings, they have an opportunity to actually reflect on what they have done. And then, you know, the other parents would actually help them to come to terms with accepting that they did not know much. They only knew what they knew then, but now with the new information, now they can come to a point to actually say, I have done wrong, I am wrong. Then I can confront my child, and then in a way to try to mend the relationships. That is when sometimes in some of the sessions, they can be very emotional, you know, because parents would be now appreciating the damage that they would have caused on their children, because that's the only thing that they knew at the time when that whatever incident was happening. And that is why they would really appreciate ICDP when they exit ICDP. You know, the homework, they really work wonders. Like an example, like I mentioned that in one of the councils that are now sponsoring themselves for ICDP when they started last year, it was because they had a lot of street children, and these children were not going to school. So at the end or during ICDP, we saw parents being very intentional about staying home, about building relationship with their children, positive relationships. And I remember at graduation, the magistrate was like, I've been wondering what is happening in our town. Now I have an answer, because this has actually been the program that has worked for the families, because now the number of cases of children that are coming to my office has really reduced drastically.
Wow.
So that is what I can share. Yeah.
Wonderful. Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Pitamber, do you want to answer Ingun's question or something similar?
Yeah. I think one of the important aspects we find working with parents in Nepal and also in Asian context is introspecting their own child rearing, how they were raised by their children. And I think that has been very powerful reflection part. So we always start with the positive experiences with their caregiver. So when did they feel loved and respected as a person? So that then they really look back on that. And then next step we do in the next day is more of a helping them to reflect on their child rearing, but where they felt not respected, not taken care, not given space as a person. And in that regard, what happens is a lot of these wound comes out, A, but B also, like, they try to mentalize why their parents were behaving with them like that. So they were just not mean to them. It was not about them, but they had something going on in their life at that time. So actually, suddenly they realized my parents were not intentionally bad to me, but they had something going on in their life, and then I was a kind of a victim of that sometime. So then suddenly this new perspective emerged, and that brings them mending their behavioral relationship with their children, how they behave, how they talk to their children is much more different compared to without introspecting that part. And so that has been a very important and powerful tool we have realized, like, suddenly you do these activities, suddenly this comes, wow. And they change their perspective about their parent, and also they change their behavior, or they at least change their intention toward their children in a different way.
Thank you. I think actually that is a very good ending. And that means that Helen, you will not get a last word because time is going out, and I think that's totally okay for you, and if I know you well. And I think what you would.
Can I just say thank you to Piso and to all the other presenters, because I recognize so much, both from South Africa work and from Nepal. It was so nice. Thank you.
And I think what I think Pitamber was saying now, just getting if we take the networking, the need to continue with this from Maria, and then we take actually we've seen impact already in Botswana, and what Pitamber is voicing, I think is real. This is where peace comes. It's when we both understand, we change our way of doing things ourselves, and we see what it's affected us. We understand that, but we actually are able to forgive the other way and understand and have empathy towards those who were not nice to us. And I think that is maybe, I know that in Ukraine, it started off with peace work. So I think maybe that will be then the end of this session. And thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Again, thank you to Ingen for organizing and facilitating it all, and to Helen, to Pitamber, to Piso, and to Maria. And have a wonderful day or night or evening, wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye. Og ha det til alle dere som er i Norge, som er i nærheten. Hei, hei.